How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about some new revelations in the Brett Kavanaugh case. As you all know by now, Brett Kavanaugh will be our next Supreme Court justice. It's being held up here, the vote to get him in, that is, because of allegations against him, talking about he sexually assaulted me 36 years ago. The first accuser and the most prominent at this point is Christine Blasey Ford. She is a professor of psychology. Now, during the hearing they had last week, she was asked questions by Rachel Mitchell, a female sexual crimes prosecutor in Arizona. People didn't really like Rachel Mitchell. They were saying that she was giving her softball questions, treating her with kid gloves, laughing and joking, basically having a tea party. But the questions she has asked Miss Ford have now come back to haunt her. And the reason why I say that is because one key question was about a lie detector test. This was bandied about in the media as some kind of relevant piece of information, some proof that Christine Ford is telling the truth about Brett Kavanaugh. The question that was asked to her was along the lines of, have you ever spoken to anybody about how to take a polygraph? And she said, no, I never done it. But now one of Christine Ford's ex-boyfriends has come out and said, well, she spoke to me about how she coached a friend of hers how to take a polygraph, what to expect, what's going to happen, this, that, and the third. Now, that obviously contradicts what she said during the hearing, all right? And Senator Chuck Grassley is going to be looking into it because obviously there's some discrepancies there. Now, I'm not surprised at this at all because she is a professor of psychology. If anybody would know how to manipulate a polygraph or what to expect when you take it, it would be her. She studies things that involve the mind. Throughout the actual hearing, she was talking about certain things, talking about the hippocampus, all kind of really heady, lofty stuff that you would need to know if you are a psychologist. Obviously, those same things that she was mentioning, that same skill set which she has, would lend her to take a polygraph in a convincing way to try and fool the polygraph. And this is why polygraphs aren't admitted in court, obviously, because they can be manipulated. Luckily, this whole situation is not a criminal case, because if it was, that kind of evidence shouldn't be there. But either way it goes, I'm not surprised. This is something that I expected to come about. And I think you'll see much more as it relates to her testimony. I mean, even during the hearing, she was talking about stuff that didn't make any sense, saying she doesn't know how she got to the particular house party in question where she was allegedly sexually assaulted by Brett Kavanaugh and his friend Mark Judge. She doesn't know how she got back, doesn't really know when it was, what year it was, doesn't really know a whole lot. Trump got in trouble for saying that actually during a rally in Mississippi, but he was right. This is obviously an issue here. If you don't know key details about the situation, but you want me to believe you, obviously you're going to have a hard time convincing me that what you're saying is true. If you want to convince me or anyone else in the general public that is not biased one way or the other, just right down the middle, we care about facts over feelings, facts over party. If you want to convince us that you're telling the truth, you don't start off by talking about, well, I really don't know when it was. I have vague details, vague memories of the situation. You need to provide hardcore physical evidence, or at least have some kind of knowledge of what you're talking about, rather than these really vague and, you know, easily interpreted in other ways statements that you have provided. But this testimony from one of her ex-boyfriends, I think, might be kind of like a nail in the coffin, because people that are the closest to her or were the closest to her seem to be flipping. You had her friend that she said was there, a woman at the party. The friend said, I have no recollection of this. I don't even know Brett Kavanaugh. And she had the nerve to get on the stand or wherever it was at the hearing and say that, well, she has medical issues. She has medical problems. I'll pray for her. Really weird. At the end of the day, this case is really weak. It's paper thin. We're going to get Brett Kavanaugh to be our next Supreme Court justice this week. It's going to be over. All this whole hullabaloo is going to be a thing of the past. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So all the haters, everybody talking about, oh, he was a drunk and coming up with these letters. Oh, one last thing. A letter came out, and in the letter, it's alleged to have been from Brett Kavanaugh. And by the way, we don't know if this letter is authentic or what, but I'm just going off of what I've heard over the past few minutes. The letter came out, and it was addressed to somebody's neighbors at a beach house or something. And the letter was talking about how there's going to be a bunch of vomiting drunkards at this party, and just a fair warning. Nowhere in there did it say that Brett Kavanaugh is the kind of person that will be a vomiting drunkard that will pass out, can't remember what's going on, has no control of himself. All that I've seen about Brett Kavanaugh, or all that I've heard about Brett Kavanaugh from people that actually have known him for a very long time, is that he is a very responsible person. They all say that he drank beer, but nobody's ever said, in public at least, that he's the kind of person that would be a sloppy, fall down drunk that will go sexually assault women. So that is pretty much all I got to say. So what say you? Do you think that this piece of information further impacts Christine Blasey Ford's credibility? Do you think she had credibility to begin with? I'm not really sure that she did. I think that this just kind of cements what a lot of us have already known. But to those of us who don't want to believe that Christine Blasey Ford could possibly making this story up, that she could possibly be trying to do some political stuff, that she could possibly have an axe to grind against Trump, against Republicans, or against Brett Kavanaugh himself for whatever reason. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I think the evidence is pretty clear, and we'll get past this whole thing once he becomes the next Supreme Court justice. In my humble opinion, the same way we were able to get beyond the whole Anita Hill coke can kerfuffle. But whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments.